Welcome to the Through These Gates podcast, the most rational Nebraska football show on the whole damn internet. I am your host, as always, Caleb Salvatore. It is, God willing, the bye week. Thank God. I just not going to think about it this Saturday. That's all. Just treat it like the toxic situation that it is and enjoy the week off. I'm chilling, though. It's Friday afternoon. I'm drinking beer in my home studio here. And we're going to do something a little bit different this week, as promised, the coaching search video. Now, I have compiled basically every name I've seen on the internet. And I've taken them all. I just put them all. Every time I saw a name that was rumored or, hey, this would be a good hire, I wrote it down, right? I've been prepping for this since before they fired him because I knew it was coming, and I knew this video was coming. And I take this very seriously. Kind of, not really. That's why I'm drinking on the job. But I compiled a list of everyone, and I put them into, 7 different categories, okay? So I've got 7 categories. I've got won't happen, which is, like, sounds good, doesn't work. It's not going to happen. Be cool if it did. Be interesting to see what happened. But for one reason or another, it's not going to happen. That's number 1. Number 2, I have don't want, guys that I've been hearing that I'll be honest with you, I don't want. And some of them were guys that I was like excited about when the name first popped up. And the more I look into it, I'm like, yeah, I don't want them. The third category is Scott Frost 2.0. These are the group of 5 coaches that everyone's, all excited about. The Billy Napier types, the group of 5 coaches that everyone's excited about that haven't really done anything significant in the Power 5 conferences, much like Scott Frost. Or even if they're in a Power 5 conference, it's still a little sus of a situation. After that, we got outside looking in, which is guys that, they could be a hire. Their names are out there every year. There's only 2 on that list. Their names are out there every year, every time somebody's looking, but nothing ever comes of it, and they've kind of missed their window almost. Then we have dark horses, guys that if they were to be hired, it would come as a little bit of a shock at first, but it wouldn't be impossible to get yourself excited about the hire. It would be like, oh, okay, you'd have to take a step back, but it wouldn't be impossible. You could easily look at some things and be like, okay, we might have something here. After that's coordinators. So Power 5 coordinators, guys that are next in line. If the job isn't at Nebraska, they're going to get it somewhere. And then after that is, I don't want to call it slam dunks. I would call this the A list. Yeah, we're going to rename it. I have it as slam dunks. We're going to call it the A list. Because here's the thing. This is what we got to make clear. When Scott Frost was hired in 2018, he was considered to be a slam dunk hire for Nebraska, right? He had just had success as a head coach. He had Power 5 experience. He had played under the greats and coached with the greats. He either played or coached very briefly under Belichick. He played under Parcells, Chip Kelly. He played under Tom Osborne, obviously. So he had all the track record. He had played both sides of the ball and specifically special teams in the NFL. It was the total package, to quote Bill Moose. The pick of the litter, also to quote Bill Moose. God, I'm glad that guy's not making the decisions anymore. But he was the guy. It was the slam dunk. It wasn't just us that wanted him. He'd gone undefeated from a team that 2 years ago went winless, and we've been over why that statistic is a little bit misleading in hindsight on a previous video or post-game reaction show. So everyone was excited. All the analysts agreed. Slam dunk hire. You didn't get any better. The prodigal son who went undefeated at UCF at a smaller, group of 5 school comes forward and he comes home and he's going to return his alma mater to greatness at the lowest point in their history. Well, lowest point up until that point because he made it worse. So that's what I want to be clear. There is no slam dunk hire, right? There are guys who would make a lot of sense and would be easy to make you excited about, but they all have either question marks in terms of their body of work. Do they not have the Power 5 experience we're looking for? Do they not have the head coaching experience we're looking for? Did they take over a team that was already good? You know, and a team that already had the talent? Were they in a hotbed recruiting area like Texas or Florida or California, where it's easy to get guys? You know, it's easy for the fourth, fifth, or sixth biggest school in the state to get 4-star recruits and look good against, you know, Sun Belt competition, American Conference competition. And if they don't have question marks, they have baggage. And I got a feeling you know who I'm talking about. They have baggage. Reasons that people in our Christian conservative state here wouldn't want them. So there's no slam dunk hire that's going to have 98%, because not everyone was excited about Frost, but there's no slam dunk hire that's going to have 98% of the whole fan base amped up and ready to go like Frost was. It just isn't out there. And maybe, you know what, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a good thing that there isn't someone who everyone's going to be super excited for, and maybe we're a little bit unreasonable in our defenses of him. And I was just as bad as anyone for a while with Frost. I think it's important that the next guy isn't, I shouldn't say it's important. I don't think the next guy should be an our guy type of guy, because I think we're a little irrational and we give those people more leeway than we would someone else. That's my opinion. Now, with that said, I want to say the best case scenario for all of this, the best case scenario, and this name's not going to be on the list for this reason, the best case scenario that we can get for a head coach is Mickey Joseph wins the next 8 games, takes us to a bowl game, we go 9-3, we win the Big Ten West, win our bowl game, at least look competitive against Ohio State. That's the best case scenario. I want to make that clear. He pulls a Dabo Swinney. That's not going to happen. But it's the best case scenario. Before I get started on this list, tell me in the comments who you want. Then like, subscribe, share, turn the notifications on, help with the algorithm. But comment who you think should be the coach, and then tell me who you think will be the coach. Because there's a difference between expectations and reality. Tell me who you think is actually going to be the coach versus who you want. And maybe it's the same person. Maybe you're totally realistic. Or the guy you want is a totally realistic hire. This is Infusion beer, by the way. It's not a sponsor, but brewed here in Omaha. It is fantastic. If they want to sponsor me, hit me up. So the first group won't happen. These are the guys that sounds interesting, but let's be real, it's not going to happen here, okay? First off, Bo Pelini. No, I'm kidding. Number 1, and these aren't ranked. If it's ranked in a specific order, I'll let you know. Otherwise, it's just names. Won't happen. Deion Sanders. Don't see it happening. Don't see him coming here. He's waiting for an SEC job. Now money talks, and you throw $10 million a year at him, yeah, he might come. He'd probably come here. He's a great recruiter. He's a great motivator. Obviously, he's doing something right at Jackson State because they're winning games down there. But it's not going to happen. Because here's the thing. Trev Alberts is a smart businessman. I call him the Grim Reaper in Nebraska sports. He is a smart businessman. He is not going to pay $10 million to pry an FCS coach here who's only been an FCS coach for a couple years and really has probably only had the dominance he's had at his brief time at Jackson State because of his ability to attract high-profile recruits. You got to be able to do more than just recruit once you start playing in the big leagues. Bill Callahan showed us that. Mike Riley showed us that. So that won't happen. They're not going to pay what he's going to want to come to Nebraska. And even if they did, second an SEC job opened up, second a job where it's easier to recruit at opened up, he's gone. And that's not a good look. Next up is Mark Stoops. He's doing really good at Kentucky. It's an SEC school. He's already in the Power 5. And the key thing there is he's not going, yeah, we can pay him more, but what's it worth? at the end of the day? What is your sanity and your job security worth? He can go 6-6, 7-5, have a 5-7, 4-8 year at Kentucky. As long as it's not a repetitive thing, they're not going to care too much. It's not going to be a huge deal down there. He's second tier to basketball. That's how it's always going to be at Kentucky. He's second tier to Calipari. I don't see him coming here. After that's Bob Stoops. Sticking with the Stoops family. I don't see Bob Stoops coming here. Don't see it happening. I don't think he is totally out of the coaching ring yet because he agreed to coach one of the UFL or XFL team, one of them. So I don't think he's totally out of it yet, and he subbed in for Oklahoma when Lincoln Riley left and coached the bowl game. I know, Bob Stoops winning a bowl game is wild. That tells me he's too committed to Oklahoma. Don't see him coming here. He's an Oklahoma guy in the wool. If he's going to coach in college football, he's got too much loyalty to that university to come to an arch rival, even if it's a respected rivalry. And you know what? I respect him for it. I don't think Bob Stoops is coming. I also don't think PJ Fleck's coming. Again, we can pay him more, but he's already in a Power 5 conference. He's not under the scrutiny that he would be here. I don't see him leaving that situation in Minnesota. Now, if the Vikings fire their coach, he might go for it. But I don't see him leaving Minnesota to come to Nebraska. What he's already built there, he's got a solid team there. They're my personal favorite to win the Big Ten West this year. I don't see him coming here. I just don't see it happening. But it's like I said, because he's already built something special there. Why would you start over? Yeah, money's good, but again, do you put a price tag on your sanity? PJ Fleck's also controversial. A lot of Nebraska fans don't like him because he's kind of a dick. He talks a lot of smack, but he backs it up most of the time. So after that's Kyle Whittingham at Utah. He's the last one on this list. Don't see him coming here. He's done a good job at Utah, but he's over the hill. 62 years old. I think he's happy there. He's done a solid job. I just don't see it happening. Next category, don't want. Number one's Dan Mullen. Don't want him. You saw what guy just can't coach. Don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. I don't know. He's a good offensive coordinator, but I fell apart in Florida. Don't see Dan Mullen happening. Another one, Lane Kiffin. This guy is Urban Meyer, the baggage of Urban Meyer without the national championships. No, he's a prodigal son from Lincoln, even though we don't really claim him. I don't want Daniel Tosh here with Kiffin's Crimson Corner making fun of us. I'm good. Pass. Pass on Lane Kiffin. Next is Craig Bull. Craig Bull could almost be in the outside looking in category. And I feel bad for him because the dude built a dynasty at North Dakota State. Well, maybe not built, but he ran a dynasty at North Dakota State. And he's done nothing. To win in Wyoming is incredibly difficult. Nobody wants to go to Wyoming, and he's won there, and he's produced NFL talent there. Best quarterback in the NFL, Josh Allen right now. Top 5 at least on a bad day. He's my fantasy quarterback. That's why I know. But I just don't see him coming here. And I don't want him. I think the window's up. He's a little too old. He's our guy. He was a defensive coordinator. Don't see him coming here, though. I just don't. I'd rather not. Unfortunately, the window of opportunity's been missed. It's closed. So, Chris Kleiman, Kansas State. Don't want him. Don't want him. Sure, he was good at North Dakota State, but remember when I said I don't want a guy who picked up, who got the job after a coach that was already winning and continued winning. Well, yes, that's difficult to do. We don't need that right now. We need a builder. I don't want Chris Kleiman. For the same reason I don't want the next guy on this list, Matt Entz from North Dakota State. Don't want him either. Same exact reason. Impressive. You've continued to win at a good school. And I'm not saying that sarcastically. I truly believe it's impressive when someone can, because that's hard to do. It's a lot of pressure you're under, a lot of scrutiny. To be able to pick up and just continue to win after someone else leaves, I think that's impressive. But it's not what we need. Next up is Eric Bieniemy from the Kansas City Chiefs, the offensive coordinator. Don't want him. Very limited college experience, no head coaching experience. I'm good. We saw what happened when we hired the NFL guy. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. If he, I don't know. I don't think he wants to come here either. I think he's going to hold out for an NFL job, and he'll get one. Andy Reid can't be around much longer. He may be being groomed for that job. We don't know. I don't think it's going to be Bieniemy, though, and I really don't want him. And then after that, this is going to be the most controversial one on the whole list. Okay? Now get ready for this. Get ready for this. Matt Campbell. Don't want Matt Campbell. I think this is Mike Riley 2.0. You remember what they said about Mike Riley, right? Remember what they said about Mike Riley. Well, look what he did in the Pac-12. It's the second-tier school in Oregon, lower Pac-12 school. He made bowl games most of the time. You know, most of the time he was in a bowl game. He had like a 56% win percentage. Imagine what he could do with the funding and support and fans at Nebraska. Well, we saw what happened. His predecessor didn't exactly set him up for success. Nonetheless, we saw what happened. Matt Campbell. I mean, he's looked solid. 3-9, 8-5, 8-5, 7-6, 9-3, 7-6. It's a very, and he's 3-0 this year. He'll play Dave Aranda and Baylor, which will be interesting. I want to watch that game. 57% win percentage at Iowa State, which isn't much better than Riley's was at Oregon State. Again, number 2 school in the state. Big 12, kind of comparable to the Pac-12. Tough to recruit in Iowa. Tough to win at Ames. He's mostly done it. He's made a bowl game 5 out of 6 years. And don't get me wrong, these numbers I'm looking at, other than his first year, 8-5, 8-5, which he took over a bad team. There's no doubt about it. But 8-5, 8-5, 7-6, 9-3, 7-6. I would kill for those numbers at Nebraska right now. Now, we probably, if a coach was doing that, we probably would have fired him. But I would kill for those numbers right now. He's 2-3 in bowl games, which, whatever. Who cares if you lose the Cheez-It or the Camping World Bowl? Doesn't matter. But it's not a guy I want. I feel like it's Mike Riley 2.0. Their wins are ugly, man. You ever watch him play? I feel like it's Mike Riley 2.0, which is a good segue into our next category. And Matt Entz could actually fit in this one as well, even though he's FCS. Scott Frost 2.0. Again, these are the guys that they've had success as group of 5 coaches or, Big 12, smaller teams in the Big 12 or Pac-12, etc. Not a guy I'd want. Number 1, Jamie Chadwell from Coastal Carolina. Don't want him. Looks like his offense works great there. As you saw, man, you cannot change as we saw with Frost, you cannot expect the Big Ten to adapt to your offense. You actually have to adapt your offense to the Big Ten. It's too big and it's too powerful. The guys are too fast, they're too strong, they're too quick, they're too smart. You cannot get away with doing the stuff that you can get away with in the Sun Belt in the Big Ten. And I like his triple option, air it out type offense. It's weird, it's unique, it's different. But I don't see it working in the Big Ten. I see it going just like Frost did. Now, if he was willing to commit to running a true pro-style offense, or a spread maybe, I could see it working. But again, you have the same issue here that you did with Frost and everyone else that's in this category. He does not have the Power 5 coaching experience. We haven't seen him do it yet. We haven't seen him do it in the big leagues. I'll show you a statistic I read yesterday. It's very interesting. Let me pull it up here. Should have been more prepared than this, but fuck off. It's my show. This is a statistic I read yesterday. This is from EER Sports. I believe this is a Georgia Tech website. They put it into 4 different categories, excuse me. Power 5 coordinators, Power 5 head coach transfers, board TV analysts, so I mean your Urban Meyers, Chris Petersons, people like that, and then group of 5 head coaches. And these are higher since, I believe, 2000. I believe it was the year Frost was hired. So 2018, 17. Yeah. Yep. So here are the numbers. Here's the win percentages, okay? Check this out. Number one, the most successful of those four groups, Power 5 coordinators, won 55.7% of their games. Okay? Power 5 head coach transfers just got beat out by the coordinators, 55.2% of the games. Board TV analysts, 49.5%. And group of 5 head coaches, dead last at 40.6. 40.6. You're playing with fire, man. I mean, look at Billy Napier at Florida. Guy was slam dunk. You've already got fans on Twitter calling for his firing, calling him an idiot. Scared money don't make money, right? Well, he ain't making no money in the SEC right now. Because it turns out you can't do the same crap you did in the Sun Belt and win in the SEC. The same reason Scott Frost couldn't do the same crap he did in the American Conference and win in the Big Ten. It doesn't work. You have to adjust. Coaches have to be able to adapt. Just like anything else in life, if you're going to be good in any industry, you have to be able to adapt to changes. And he can't do it. And Frost couldn't do it. Next up is Charlie Huff. Guys looked impressive at Marshall. He's got some big wins. Beat Notre Dame. Again, track record's not there, man, and that's going to be the common theme in this list. Will Healy from Charlotte was one of the names I saw early, and they just look terrible. I don't want that. I'm good. Pass. They don't look good at all. And then last on Scott Frost 2.0, remember I said there was going to be an exception. It wasn't all going to be a group of 5 coaches. The last name, number 4, is Dave Aranda from Baylor. Everyone's excited. Super pumped up. Dave Aranda, man, we're going to get Dave Aranda because that's the rumors. I don't want him. I'll tell you why. Scott Frost vibes. Scott Frost vibes for sure. I'll pull up the Baylor record here. All right. Baylor's record under Matt Rule, who he replaced. Here you go. 1-11. Because he took over after the Art Briles thing. And they had an interim coach. Then 7-6, 11-3. Dave Aranda's first year. Matt Rule's last year was 11-3. They lost the Sugar Bowl. Dave Aranda's first year. 2-7. It was the COVID year. Next year, 12-2. Won the Sugar Bowl. They're 2-1 right now. They play Iowa State and Matt Campbell. Again, interesting game to watch. Not crazy about either of those guys, but either one of them has a very realistic chance of being our next head coach. 2-7, 12-2, after taking over for an 11-3 team. I'm not that impressed by it. I'm not. Just like Frost in Florida, Dave Aranda has the recruiting bed of Texas, right? Where Frost was competing with Florida State and Florida and getting their, outcasts. Him and USF were competing for the outcasts for Florida State, Florida, and Miami. You're at Baylor. You're competing with Texas. You're competing with you're getting the outcasts for Texas and Texas A&M. You're probably at Baylor at this point is probably on the same level as Texas Tech. So you're probably competing with Texas Tech in the same way that UCF was competing with USF for these Texas recruits that don't want to leave home. Again, high 3-star, 4-star recruits. Not scrubs. 3- and 4-star recruits. Got a lot of talent down there. And then you got like the Texas State, UTEP. There's all kinds of them. Not crazy about. I wouldn't be upset if they hired Aranda. He's probably the one I'd be the most happy with on this list of Scott Frost 2.0 in that category. But and I like there's not everything's negative. I like that he's a defensive coordinator. Obviously, we have problems on the defense. He's got a defensive background. Just not crazy about it. Next up is outside looking in, and there's only 2 on here. And it's 2 names that get tossed in every time. Jeff Monken and Troy Calhoun. And I'm going to put them in the same, I'm talking about them at the same time. They're both academy coaches. Jeff Monken's at Army. Troy Calhoun's at Air Force. They've both won in places it is extremely difficult to win at because it's extremely difficult to recruit. Let's be real here. The 5-star left tackle that's 350 pounds or 325 pounds, 6'8", does not want to go serve 2 years in the Army. Can't really recruit there. You can't get 5-star defensive backs or quarterbacks. You got to work with what you can get. Now, they get a lot of athletic guys and a lot of smaller guys, and they're smart with it. They play smart, disciplined football, and that's the exact opposite of what Nebraska plays, which either of these guys that have been able to crank out wins at places, like I said, where it's way more difficult to recruit to than Nebraska, I would have no problem with either of them. I wouldn't be upset with Troy Calhoun or Jeff Monken. Now, they're both a little bit older. Calhoun's 55. I believe Monken's in his 60s. I know Vanderbilt and South Carolina talked about hiring Monken, and the fans were upset. I would not be upset if we hired Jeff Monken. I think he's a good coach. He coaches it. They're struggling a little bit this year, but it's tough to crank out wins at Army. It just is. He's not married to the option, I don't think. I think that he could come over here and maybe run more and hire a good offensive coordinator if they gave him the money to, because we'd be way under budget. We'd have money for better offensive, for better assistant coaches. They may even keep Mark Whipple. I think Mark Whipple, I want to see Mark Whipple call plays without Frost breathing down his neck. I was critical of him last week. I said he called plays like he had his tail between his legs. I want to see how he does the rest of the season before I'm ready to just sell him off. Because you saw what he did with Kenny Pickett at Pittsburgh. Let's give him a year or two with Casey and see what happens. Mark Whipple's not a scrub offensive coordinator. It's not Troy Walters. I want to see what he does. But I don't think it'll happen because it's not a splashy hire. And neither of them have lit the world on fire at where they're at. You remember Scott Frost chickened out during the COVID year of playing Army, almost robbed him of a bowl game. That was about when I was done with him. You robbed a team that had a phenomenal season of a bowl game. It's bullshit. I wouldn't mind running the triple option here. Don't think it'll happen. But if we could get a coach like Jeff Monken in here that could just make his team play disciplined, smart football, that would be an increase. The talent on this team, if they could just play disciplined, smart football, know their roles, know their assignments, wrap up on the fucking tackles, this is a 7 or 8 win team. If you have a coach like Jeff Monken or Troy Calhoun that preaches discipline this season to start the year out, it's a different conversation we're having right now. We're not even doing this podcast. Not this episode, at least. Because it's a 7, 8, 9 win team. Just from playing disciplined and knowing their roles and being held accountable for mistakes. Military discipline is what these guys could use. Damian Jackson transferred, so they don't have it anymore. After that's dark horses. And these are all names that, like I said, if they hired them, I wouldn't be thrilled, but it wouldn't be impossible to get excited about. Okay, maybe this guy can succeed. And this is what I think people need to realize. If we don't have to get a slam dunk hire here, okay? If we're going to get a young guy, you better get it right. If you're going to take a shot on a young guy, you better get it right. But these guys in this category, they're a little bit older. They've got success as head coaches in both Power 5 and Group of 5. They've been there, done that. So like I said, you don't have to get the slam dunk young hire this time. You do need to get this right, but there's different ways to get it right. If you don't get the slam dunk, 40-year-old coach who sets the world on fire, one of these guys could work. You could get one of these guys. And they could, so you don't have to, like I said, you don't have to get the slam dunk hire. You can get a guy who comes in, changes the culture. He's there for 5-6 years, consistently cranks out 7, maybe the first year's a little rough, consistently cranks out 7, 8, 9 win seasons, then retires. You could get that. And then you find your slam dunk hire. Maybe he's on his staff. But then you find your slam dunk young guy that you're banking on is going to take you to the next level. We need someone who can build a program and level us up right now because we're about as low as you get. About as low as you get. So if we can get that, I think we'll be okay. So here's the first name, and don't kill me. Tom Herman. Obviously, we saw what he built at Houston. He's never had a losing season as a head coach. He got a lot of crap for what happened at Texas. And here's the other thing. Undefeated in the postseason. 5-0 in bowl games. Peach Bowl, Texas, Sugar Bowl, and 2 Alamo Bowls in his last 2 years at Texas. Now say what you want. Make fun of the Alamo Bowl. Make fun of the Texas Bowl. Go ahead. What has Nebraska won in the postseason? It was Mike Riley's first year. I think it was the Holiday Bowl against UCLA. Pass. I'm good. Totally good. Never had a losing season. Never had a spectacular season, but here's his record at Texas. 7-6, 10-4, 8-5, 7-3 in the COVID year. Looks pretty good right now. I don't know how you feel. We could have a coach that could just pump out 7-5 seasons. Pump out an 8-4 season every now and then, win 10, 11 games. We're at least on track to getting back. Not a slam dunk hire, not splashy. Not going to make anyone go, oh my God, they're back. It's the 90s again. No. But we don't need that right now. We're at the bottom. We're not at the 90s. The 90s are not attainable right now. We're at the 50s. Okay? We're at the 50s. And we need the Bo Pelini era back before we even, the Bill Callahan era back before we even think about the 90s again. Don't even think about it, man. I miss 2005. So number 1's Tom Herman. After him, Chris Peterson. Boise State and Washington. Now he's been out of the game for 3 years. I believe he's an analyst now. Where is he? Yeah, I don't know. He resigned from Washington. Don't know why. Again, guy who's never had a losing season. Never had a losing season. 147-38 as a head coach. He was at Boise State. Came into Washington. Cranked out successful seasons. 8-6. Here's at Washington. We're not going to talk about Boise State because you know how I feel about the group of 5 coaches. Washington. Here's what he cranked out. First year, 8-6, 7-6, 12-2, 10-3, 10-4, 8-5. 2-4 in the postseason. Whatever. Those are solid years. Solid seasons in a Power 5 conference. He's won in a Power 5 conference. For reference, before he took over at Washington, under Steve Sarkisian, they were 9-4, 7-6, 7-6. I'm on the Wikipedia right now. 7-6. I mean, average teams. He clearly took them. He elevated them to another level. He didn't just pick up and continue the current pace of being average. He elevated them to another level. He did. I mean, they were BCS games they were playing in. Under Chris Peterson. He would be a good hire. Wouldn't be mad. Next one, Gary Patterson. He's an assistant coach, special assistant to the regional manager, no, to the head coach at Texas. Former TCU guy. Now, they played in the Big 12. They played in the Mountain West. They played in Conference USA. They played in the WAC. He's been all over the place. Boasts a record of 181-79. His time at TCU, I mean, he was at TCU forever. The guy built TCU from the ground up. And they cranked out good seasons, even in the Big 12. They had every now and then they had a down year. Cranked out good seasons. Here's his record in the Big 12 at TCU: 7-6, 4-8, 12-1, 11-2, 6-7, 11-3, 7-6, 5-7, 6-4, 3-5. And that was his last year. He retired. He parted ways after 8 games there. Looks pretty good. Not great. Doesn't blow my mind, but again, guy who could at least set the foundation here. Set the foundation for the next guy to build off of. That's what we need. You're the John Stockton. We'll find our Karl Malone. Toss the alley-oop. Doesn't have to be a slam dunk this time. That's the misconception. And the last on this list is Bronco Mendenhall. BYU and Virginia. Good coach. 135-81. First year at Virginia Tech, right? I mean, he built BYU. He's a legend there. Not Virginia Tech, Virginia. First year at Virginia, 2-10, 6-7, 8-5, 9-5, 5-5, 6-6. Doesn't blow your mind. Doesn't blow your mind. Nothing phenomenal. But he's had success in a Power 5 conference. Virginia's tough, man. You're recruiting with Virginia Tech. Old Dominion bothers them. As you can see, prior to that, Virginia was 4-8, 2-10, 4-8. He took over a bad team and put them in a bowl game every year. 5-7. He took over a bad team and put them in a bowl game every year, except one, or except his first year. He retired his last year. And then there was the COVID year, and we don't count that. That was goofy. So those are the dark horses. Next up, we got coordinators. Remember I said I'm high on coordinators. I almost feel like it needs to be a coordinator because they don't have the baggage or the question marks that they don't have the baggage that some of the quote-unquote slam dunks have, and they don't have the question marks that some of the group of 5 coaches have in terms of have they coached in a major conference. We'll go down the list here. No particular order. Josh Gaddis, he's at Miami. He's the offensive coordinator. He's been at Michigan. He's been all over the place. He won Coordinator of the Year a couple years ago. I think he's one that slept on. He was a name I saw really, really early. And I think he kind of fell off the map there. He was at Alabama, though. He was a co-offensive coordinator, passing game coordinator at Penn State. Been all over the Power 5, Big Ten, SEC, ACC. Offensive coordinator at Michigan. Now he's at Miami. Young guy, too. I don't think he's 38. Be 39 in January. I don't think he's going to get his shot yet, but he's coming. In a year or two, someone's going to hire him. He's going to get a chance, and that's just like this next guy, which is Jim Leonard from Wisconsin. Great defensive coordinator. You see what he's doing up in Wisconsin. I would be happy if we hire Jim Leonard. Don't think we're going to. Don't think anyone's going to this year. I think he needs another year or two to marinate. Someone's going to give him a shot, just like Josh Gaddis. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. He's done a great job there, and we needed a defensive-minded coach. Would not hurt. I'm not saying we need one, but it wouldn't hurt. Speaking of defensive-minded coaches, Alex Grinch. USC, he followed Lincoln Riley there from Oklahoma. Guy looks good. Another one. I just for no reason other than the name. We already with Frost though. Imagine the shirts we could make. How the Grinch stole the Big Ten. Be great. Play on Christmas Eve bowls, and it'd be solid. It's a cool name if nothing else. He's a coordinator I wouldn't be upset about. After that, Todd Monken, offensive coordinator at Georgia, cousin of Army coach Jeff Monken. You've seen what Georgia's offense has done. Only a matter of time until he gets a shot. Same with Jeff Lebby at Oklahoma. We're more than familiar with what Oklahoma's offense is capable of. More than familiar. Only a matter of time until someone gives him a shot as well. All these guys on this list are going to be head coaches at some point. That's what people have to realize. Everyone I just named will be a head coach somewhere at some point in time. I don't know if any of them will be hired at Nebraska, but every one of them will be hired somewhere. And then the last name on this list is the name that honestly I wouldn't be thrilled about it, but I wouldn't be upset about it. I'd be in wait and see mode. And it's the name that probably makes the most sense of anyone in the coordinators category, which is Bill O'Brien, offensive coordinator at Alabama. Guy's done the thing, man. He's coached in the NFL as a head coach, offensive coordinator under Bill Belichick with the Patriots. He took over at he went to the Texans to be a head coach there. Never won a Super Bowl in New England. He coached in one though, as an offensive coordinator and an offensive assistant too. Went to the Texans, didn't work out. It was okay for a little bit, but it kind of the thing is you can't really judge guys. I mean, Nick Saban was a disaster in the NFL. Mike Riley was too. Nick Saban was a disaster in the NFL. You can't really judge a guy on how he does in the NFL if he's had success in college, right? It's completely different. You're dealing with millionaires and personalities, and NIL is going to make it, so you're going to have those skills here as well, but not to that extent. I mean, you have to make them respect you, whereas college kids are more likely to respect you just based on who you are. So it's tough. He had... With the Texans, he had a winning record, 52-48, .520, 52%. Went to the playoffs a couple times. Won a couple playoff games, 2-4 in the postseason. The most impressive thing about Bill O'Brien, though, not his tenure at Alabama. I know Alabama fans have a lot of questions about him. They question some of his play calls. I'm a New England fan. I liked him in New England. I thought he was a good offensive coordinator. I'm not a McDaniels fan. I thought he was better than McDaniels. I thought their offense significantly looked better under Bill O'Brien than McDaniels. The most impressive thing he did, though, by far the most impressive thing, and the reason we would be most apt to hire him, was what he did at Penn State. Now, Penn State was 9-4, went to a bowl game, co-division champion in the Leaders division. God, do you remember the legends and leaders in the Big Ten? I can't believe who greenlit that. They should be fired for that. But at Penn State, 15-9. Now, not gonna blow your mind, but what you have to realize is he took over Penn State when they were at the lowest point of any program in my lifetime, lower than Nebraska is right now. No, they didn't just finish a 2-10 season or 3-9 or whatever. But their coach and they had something they had a scandal that rocked the entire base of the university. The entire base of the university rocked it, right? And that was obviously the Paterno and Sandusky thing. Your head coach covered up for the defensive coordinator molesting kids for decades, even after he retired. University, it was basically a joke, man. They knew about it. Came out that they might have been, there were rumors that they were pimping the kids out. It was a big joke to them, though. They had in the school cafeteria, I remember hearing about this. It would just kind of snuck by or through the press because there was so much blatant, horrible stuff going on. You didn't really need to look for this kind of stuff. School cafeteria, all the coaches had like their own ice cream flavor or whatever. The Sandusky special was 2 scoops of ice cream with a banana in the middle. The guy's autobiography was called Touched. They all knew about it. Anyway, different show, different time. It was the worst scandal in the history of college football, worse than the SMU thing, worse than Louisville hiring prostitutes. It was the worst thing. It was the worst crime you can commit. They all but gave them the death penalty. I thought they should have, personally. This was before the transfer portal, so they let guys just leave and have immediate eligibility if they wanted to leave. They cut their scholarships. They cut their postseason access. They couldn't make bowl games. It was impossible to recruit to Penn State. No one wanted to go there because no one wanted to go to the child molester school. And he won games. He went 8-4 and 7-5. The fact that he was able to churn out wins, and he's got Big Ten experience, the fact he was able to churn out wins under those circumstances, and those circumstances alone, is incredibly impressive to me. He's not a hire that would get me super excited, but I would definitely give him more of a chance than I think a lot of people gave him Mike Riley. And now we're on to the A-list. Again, I called it Slam Dunks, and I renamed it at the start of this video. Ooh, hit something with my elbow there. We're good. Renamed it at the start of this video because no one's a slam dunk. And they all have reasons why they're not slam dunks, all right? And now we're going to go, this is actual ranking here. All right, we're going to go from 4 to 1. Number 4, there's 4 guys here. Matt Rule. Love what he did at Baylor. Love what he did post Art Briles. Again, you got something not quite as bad, but pretty bad with what was going on with Art Briles at Baylor. Just like O'Brien, he took over a bad situation. They weren't terrible the year before. I think they had an interim coach. They went 7-6. Took over and won. Won with all the crap coming down on him. Still found a way to win. Didn't work out in the NFL. Again, we talked about the Saban thing. Coaching in college, coaching in the NFL, completely different things. Sometimes it just don't work out. Sometimes it don't work out, and it does work out in college. Some guys are just meant to coach in college. And vice versa, too. I don't know how much success a Bill Belichick or a Bill Parcells would have in the NFL, or in college. I don't know. They'd probably be fine. But it's 2 completely different animals for their own reasons. Next up, Lance Leipold, Kansas. Leipold. I'll figure it out if we hire him. How about that? I've said it both ways on this show. Very impressive. He took Kansas. Horrible. Laughing stock of the Big 12 and the NCAA Division I FBS. Competed. 3-0 right now. First year they sucked. They look a lot better. They already look better. Built a dynasty at UW Whitewater. They were a little underwhelmed when they hired him at Kansas. 55-year-old scrawny white guy. Yeah, it's kind of boring. Division go fuck yourself at UW Whitewater. Who even cares? But he built a dynasty there. He went to D1. It was his turn, and he's a program builder, which is what we need. We need a builder. Okay? If we can't get a superstar hire, we need a builder, which is what Lance Leipold is. And I would be more than happy if they hired him. I think he can do damage. You don't got to be able to recruit great. You win games, the recruiting will come. Look at Ohio State. Columbus, Ohio is not this big vacation tourist destination. They get recruits there because they win games, period. Same with Michigan. Nobody wants to go to Ann Arbor, Michigan. They get recruits there because they win games. Nobody wants to go to Norman, Oklahoma. They get recruits because they win games. Don't give me this crap about how you have to be at California or a Florida school to get recruits. You can recruit kids to Nebraska if you win games. The weather's worse in Michigan. The weather's worse in Ohio than it is in Nebraska during the winter. You get 4- and 5-star recruits if you win games, period. If he can win games, the recruits will come. Kansas isn't a recruiting destination either. He's doing this with 1- and 2-star, low 3-star recruits down there. He's developing talent because he's a builder. He's built a foundation. We're a mess. We need someone to build us back up. Number 2, Luke Fickell from Cincinnati. Love Luke Fickell. Huge fan. Playoff appearance at Cincinnati. They got embarrassed. We get it. Love him, though. Guy's built a great defense, offense. He's coaching the Big Ten. He's a Big Ten guy. My only concern with Luke Fickell is if he were to build this team up and get us competitive 9, 10, 11, 12 win seasons every year, there's no reason Nebraska can't be the Ohio State of the Big Ten West if we have the right hire. Luke Fickell could get us there. An Ohio State guy, and that's my concern. If Ryan Day were to take an NFL job, or something were to happen there, which usually have scandals every 5-10 years, coaches get fired no matter how good they're doing. So if something were to happen and Ryan Day left Ohio State, he would leave in a heartbeat. He'd have the track record, Big Ten guy. If we were to have a head coach leave Nebraska for Ohio State in the same conference, we have just cemented ourselves as a stepping stone school. Congratulations. We're Missouri. We're Kansas. We're Iowa State. Maybe not Iowa State. We're Missouri. We're Kansas. We're Kansas State. We're a stepping stone school now. We're Washington. We're Virginia. Congratulations. Don't want that. Bad optic. Love him as a coach. Don't want to roll the dice in us becoming a second-tier school by him taking a job at a better school. But I would be more than happy. At the same time, if he's there, you got to hire him. Don't think he's coming because he's already turned down other big jobs. Don't think we'll get him. And number 1, love it or hate it, man, and I think it's on the table, despite what Fox is reporting and what Trev Alberts is reporting. If Urban Meyer wanted to come here, they'd open the checkbook, and it's Urban Meyer. That's number 1. Sorry, that wasn't as dramatic of an introduction as I wanted, but whatever. If Urban Meyer wanted to come here, they open the checkbook up, period. You don't. The guy's won everywhere he's been. He's got national championships at 2 different schools. He's won in the Big Ten, won in the SEC. He's built programs in small conferences. The knock on him, I mean, obviously there's the baggage. Wasn't successful in the NFL. Neither was Nick Saban. Go over this again and again and again and again. Again and again and again and again. But this is an all-time great head coach. If we could hire Urban Meyer, we do it. If he wants the job, we have to offer it to him. If he's even thinking about taking the job, we have to offer him. That's the facts. Don't give me crap about his character. His character. He was grinding on a girl at a bar. Well, guess what? Most of y'all just spent the last 5 years defending a drunk who did the same thing. The more crap that the more crap we're finding out about Frost. You guys act like Tom Osborne was a choir boy. The stuff Tom Osborne covered up in the 90s and 80s, specifically the 90s, if a school were to do that now, they would be given the death penalty for the closest thing you can get to it. Tom Osborne just put on a better mask than Urban Meyer. It ain't Boy Scouts. Sometimes you got to get some bad dudes to win a physical and violent game. It is what it is. Urban does one thing, and it's win. He's done it everywhere he's been in college football. Guys, there's no doubt. Of all the names on this list, there is no better coach, no more of a proven coach than Urban Meyer. If he's even considering it, you have to offer him the job, period. That's all there is to it. That's your guy. Anyway, this has been the Through These Gates podcast. I am your host, Caleb Salvatore. If I was wrong, tell me why. If you agree with me, tell me why. Again, tell me in the comments who you think it should be. Tell me in the comments who you think it will be. Tell me in the comments who you absolutely do not want. Tell me if there's anyone I left off this list. Just talk to me, baby. That's all I need. That's all I need. I want to hear it. I want to hear from you. Like, subscribe, share around, turn the notifications on. Follow my socials at Caleb Isn't Funny on Twitter and Instagram, at Caleb Salvatore Comedy on TikTok. Check out my other show on outlawstreamers.com. That's Based with Caleb Salvatore, doing news and politics every week. But yeah, this has been the Through These Gates podcast. I am your host, Caleb Salvatore. Peace out. God help us all. Thanks.